Hello, periods 1, 3, and 4 math. So today we are going to do a video that reviews graphing in slope-intercept form. Again, I'm focusing on skills that you need for high school next year, and I do feel like this is a skill that we definitely have not mastered yet. So it's not going to hurt us to do a review video, and then next Wednesday you'll do an assignment over this. So before we start, you should have the notes pages that I actually put in Canvas. Now, what you will see in Canvas is you will see that I put the notes pages in the module as an assignment, but I also just attached the file too. The reason why I did that was because I didn't know what would work best for you, because some of you may choose to actually print off the notes pages and then once you're done, take a picture and submit that as your assignment. Or others of you might actually watch the video and do the notes at the same time in Notability, because I think you guys can split your screen. So please note, you do not have to do both of those things in Canvas. You just have to do your notes one place and submit them in the assignment. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so here we go. All right, so this is the beginning of your notes, and it talks about we can't really start graphing in slope-intercept form if we don't even remember what it means. So first of all, let's review, what does slope-intercept form actually mean? So the formula for slope-intercept form, if you recall, is y equals mx plus b. And we can't graph an equation until it's in that correct form. Once it's in that form, what we will do is we will identify the m, which we should all know by now stands for slope, which stands for rise over run. And then we would identify the b, but the b is actually called the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is always on the y-axis, okay? And which one do we graph first? We always graph the y-intercept first. That was always called the starting point. And then from my starting point, wherever it's at, let's say it was 4, so I would put a dot on 4. And then the slope, I would graph second, and it would tell me what to do from the starting point, the y-intercept. So if the slope was 2/3, if it's rise over run, that means rise means we would go up 2, and we would go right 3. So from my starting point, which if it were 4, I would have gone up 2, 1, 2, and then right 3. 1, 2, 3. And there would have been my first point. And if you remember, when we did this to begin with, I told you you had to have 5 points. So we're going to do that today too. So I could go from the point I just drew, and I could go up 2, right 3, which would put me here. Then I could do it again. I could go up 2, right 3. And then remember, I told you you should never go off your graph. So we talked about, well, what could you do besides go up 2 and right 3? Well, the same thing, going up 2, right 3 is the same thing as going down 2 and left 3. So we could go back to my starting point, which is right here, and we could go down 2, 1, 2, left 1, 2, 3. So now I've got 5 points. And what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to connect the dots, and I'm going to make my line, and then I've graphed that equation. So hopefully, just with those few notes, that's going to help us do the following problems. Now, we'll probably do an easy one to begin with, but then we'll start making them a little harder, because you guys seemed to do okay when they were in normal form. It was when you had to rearrange them to put them in slope-intercept form. That was what gave us the most trouble. All right, so here we go. All right, so let's start with number 1, and let's do a practice problem. So if I gave you the problem, y equals negative 2/3 x minus 6, okay? So if you're comfortable trying that one on your own and then coming back and checking your work with me, that's fine. Otherwise, if you would like to work through it with me, that's fine too, whichever way you want today. All right, so for those of you that are going to work with me, or for those of you that are coming back to check your answer, here we go. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is this problem in y equals mx plus b form? Okay, well, technically, yes, it is. The only argument one might make is there's a minus 6 instead of a plus 6 because it says plus b, but that's okay. It just means my y-intercept is negative. Okay, so I always want to see you do this in your problems. I want you to identify M and B. I do not want you to go straight to graphing the problem. I need to see, what do you think M and B are? So in this problem, what number is in front of the x, which is the m? So my slope is negative 2/3. And then what number is in the b position? It's negative 6. All right. So if the slope is negative 2/3, that means whenever I get there and use the slope, I'm going to go down and I'm going to go right, because negative 2 means go down because it's rise over run. Positive 3 means go right. And my y-intercept means that if it's negative 6, I'm going to go to the y-axis and put a point on 0, negative 6. Not the x-axis, I'm going to go to the y. All right, so here's what you should be doing on your actual graph. So I always start with the b. So I start at the origin and I go down to negative 6 and I put a point. There's my b, that's my y-intercept. And then now I need 5 points on my line. So the slope says go down 2, right 3. So if I go down 2 from negative 6, I go down 2 and I go right 3. Here's my second point. And if I do that again, I go down 2, right 3. It's barely going to fit on my screen right there. But I can't put 2 more points. So instead of going down 2 and right 3, the opposite of that is going up 2 and left 3. So I'm going to go back to my starting point of negative 6, and I'm going to go up 2, and I'm going to go left 3, and I'm going to do it again, up 2, left 3, whoops, I tried to erase it, I guess. All right, and there's my line. So the next thing I need to do is I need to make sure I draw a line through my 5 points, which is really hard sometimes on the iPad. Okay, and there's my line. Okay, and that's how your work should look on all of these. I have to see you tell me what M and B are. And when we get to the problems where we have to actually rearrange them, I need to see the work for where you rearranged them. We would never do these in our head. Even I wouldn't do them in my head. All right, let's go on. Okay, here's problem number 2. So we're going from a problem that was totally in correct form to one that's not even close to being in the correct form. So let's review how to do this type of problem. So I want to get this equation in y equals mx plus b form, which means I want the y to be by itself. So if I want the y to be by itself, I'm going to circle the y, and I'm going to circle the sign next to it because it goes with it. And I'm going to say to myself, how can I move that 2x to the other side? Well, we need to remember this is a positive 2x. So to move it to the other side, I'm going to subtract 2x. When I do that, I get negative 3y equals, now we talked in class a lot about how I can't take negative 6 minus 2x. They don't both have an x. I can't combine them. And I always stress to you that you want to write this problem so that it is in the correct slope-intercept form. So I'm not going to write negative 6 minus 2x. I'm going to write negative 2x minus 6. So that way it's in the form of the formula. Okay, now I'm still not in slope-intercept form, because I want the y to be by itself, and it's not. It's got the negative 3 with it. So how do I get rid of that negative 3? Well, if it's times, I'm going to divide, and I have to divide the entire problem by negative 3. Okay, so when I do this, I end up with the problem. Negative 3 over negative 3 cancels out, and that gives me y. Negative 2x over negative 3, 2 negatives make a positive, so this is just 2/3 x. And then negative 6 over negative 3, 2 negatives make a positive. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So this is plus 2. All right, so now what happens? We have the slope of 2/3 because that's at what's in front of the x, and we have a b that is 2. Okay, so remember the b is the y-intercept, so we're going to go to the y-axis. Remember, this is the y-axis. So the purple that I'm drawing right now is the y-axis. So I'm going to go up to 2 and put a point. And then if my slope is 2/3, so that I'm going to rise 2 and I'm going to run 3. So from my beginning point, I'm going to go up 2, right 3. Then I'm going to do it again, up 2, right 3. I would do it again. I go up 2, right 3. And then I need a 5th point, so maybe I should go the opposite, which would be down and left. So for my beginning point, I'm going to go down 2 and left 3. So there's my line. As always, I'm going to connect my points and make a line. And there is that line in slope-intercept form. Okay. All right, so what if I gave you this kind of problem? Okay, so if I write my formula, y equals mx plus b, does this problem look anything like that formula? The answer is no. I'm not going to solve for x because that's not what the problem wants. I want y to be by itself. So I've got to think to myself, what can I do to get the y by itself? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the problem. And, you know, in my formula, the y is on the left side. So I'm going to move my y to the left side. So let's remember this is really a negative 1y. So how could I move that negative 1y to the other side? I could add 1y. Can I really take negative 5x plus 1y? No. So what does this give me? I could either write it as negative 5x plus 1y equals 4, or I could write 1y minus 5x equals 4. Either way, okay? But still, I'm not even close to my formula. So just like in the last problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle my 1y. I could do it over here too. I'll do it both ways. I want to get that 1y by itself. So I want to leave the 1y on the left, but I want to move that negative 5x to the right. So how would I do that? I would add 5x to both sides. And again, if you want to do it on this one, I'll do it over here too. Okay, just like in the last problem, I can't take 4 plus 5x. So what do I have? I've got 1y equals, I want to make this look like my formula, mx plus b. So I'm going to make sure I write the x term first, and then the 4. Okay, same thing over here, 1y equals 5x plus 4. Okay, so now I still have a 1 with the y. Well, technically, what am I going to do? I'm just going to divide everything by 1. Is that 1 going to change anything? No. Same thing over here. So when I get this answer in slope-intercept formula, what it turns out to be is just y equals 5x over 1 is just 5x. 4 over 1 is just plus 4. So there is my answer in slope-intercept form, but before I can graph it, I need to identify m and b. So my m is 5 over 1, because it has to be a fraction, and my b is 4. Okay, so if I go to my line, I always start with the b, so I'm going to start at the origin, and I'm going to go up to 4 on the y-axis. If my slope is 5 over 1, that means I'm going to rise 5, and I'm going to run 1 to the right. So if I go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 1. Okay, my problem is I can't go any farther, so what's the opposite of going up and right? I'm going to go down and left. Okay, so I'm going to go down from my original point, down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, left 1. Do it again, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, left 1. And if I go down 5 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, I go off the graph. So sometimes you can't get 5 points on the line. So you don't have to put 5 points on the line if you can't fit them on there. I'm just going to have 4. No big deal. So I am going to connect to my dots. And there's my line. All right, what if we had this problem? Negative 4y equals negative 2x. Okay, well, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to write the formula down. Y equals mx plus b. And my gut reaction is, I know something is missing in this problem, but I don't need to worry about what yet. All right, so let's see here. If I write down negative 4y equals negative 2x. Okay, well, it looks kind of like I don't have a b, but right now I'm not going to worry about that. So I want to get the y by itself. Well, it's almost by itself. It's just got that negative 4 with it. So what can I do to get rid of that negative 4? I can divide both sides by negative 4. All right, so when I do that, I get y equals, and then if I have negative 2 over negative 4, that reduces to 1/2 x. And that's what I have right now. Does that look like my formula? Well, yes and no. I have one thing missing. I have a b missing. So what could I do? If you recall, we can just add a 0. Now it looks like my formula. So what is my slope? My slope is 1/2. What is my b? 0. All right, so we're ready to draw this line. So if the b is 0, that means that this line is going to start right at the origin. And then my slope is 1/2, so that means I'm going to rise 1 and I'm going to go right 2. So from my starting point, I'm going to go up 1 and right 2. Maybe if I can make my dot. I'm going to go up 1 and right 2 again. Go up 1, right 2 again. Up 1, right 2 again. And then I have 5 points. Whoops, I almost missed my point. Now, if I wanted to, what else could I do? I could have gone down 1 and left 2. So, no matter what, I have 5 points. I'm ready to connect the dots. And I have my line. Okay, so I've walked you through 4 problems. What I'd like you to do is write this problem down on number 5, and I would like you to attempt to graph it by yourself. When you're ready, come back and I will go over it with you. All right, so first thing you should have done is you should have written down the formula, y equals mx plus b. And you should ask yourself, does this problem look like the formula? And the answer is yes. I don't have to do anything to it. I'm just ready to identify my m and my b. So my m is negative 3, but I need to make it a fraction, so you should have put it over 1, because your slope always has to be a fraction. And then your b was negative 2. Okay, so hopefully you started out correctly. So what do I do with this information? I graph the b first, so negative 2 is on the y-axis, so you should have started at the origin and went down to negative 2 and put a point. And then your slope is negative 3 over 1, so that means the negative 3 is your rise, so that means go down 3, and the 1 says go right 1. So from my starting point that's yellow, I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, right 1. Do it again, down 3, 1, 2, 3, right 1. Okay, if I go any farther, I'm going to go off my graph. So instead of going down and right, I'm going to go up and left. So I'm going to go back to my yellow point, and I'm going to go up 3 and left 1. From my new blue point, I'm going to go up 3 and left 1, which gives me 5 points. Okay, and I know my points sometimes don't look like they're perfectly where they're supposed to be, but it's hard to make the stylus work for me. All right, so I'm ready to draw my line. Make sure it hits the 5 points. Put your arrowheads. Done. Okay, so this one, a little bit harder. I'd like you to try it by yourself again. When you're ready, come back and we'll go over it together. All right, so for number 6, hopefully you wrote down the formula. And if I look at my problem, I know it's not even close to that right formula. So first thing I would have done was I would have circled my negative 6y and said to myself, I want to get it by itself. So how can I get it by itself on the left side? I need to get rid of that negative 3x. So you should have added 3x to both sides. And we get negative 6y equals, again, I told you we can't take 18 plus 3x. It's not 21x. They don't both have x's. I want to write this so that the x term is first, so it's 3x plus 18. want to solve for y. So if it's a negative 6 in front of the y, I've got to divide everything by negative 6. And this cancels out, and I get y equals, now 3 over negative 6, that's not negative 2, that's 1 over negative 2x. And then 18 divided by negative 6 is negative 3. So if you did this problem correctly, you should have your m is 1 over negative 2, and your b was negative 3. So when I go to graph it, I go to the y-axis, I go down to negative 3, and I put a point, so it's in green. And then my slope is 1 over negative 2, so that means I'm going to rise 1, and I'm going to go left 2. So from my green point, I'm going to go up 1, and I'm going to go left 2, up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2. Now if I wanted to, I could go the opposite way. Instead of up, I'll go down 1, and instead of left, I'll go right 1. So back to the green point, I'll go down 1, and I'll go right 2. So there's what your line should look like for number 6. All right, number 7, we can either do this one together or you can try it on your own. If you do try it on your own, obviously come back and go over it with me. All right, so in this problem, we don't have an x. And no, you don't just add an x to the negative 5. We need to make this problem look like our formula. Okay, so if I don't have an x, what could I do to make sure I have an x? Well, some people would say, well, why can't we just do this? And just add the x. Well, you can't do that because technically that means there's a 1x there, and that totally changes the problem. How can I add an x but not change the value of the problem? I need to add a 0x. Okay, so we need to add a 0x here. All right, does that look like my formula? Yes. So in this case, my slope is 0, but I need to make it a fraction. And then my b is negative 5. Okay, so when we go to graph this, how does it look? So b is negative 5, so I'm going to go to the y-axis, and I'm going to go down to 5 and put a point. And then my slope says I'm going to rise 0 and run 1 to the right. So I'm not going to rise, I'm just going to go 1 right, not going to rise, go 1 right, not going to rise, go 1 right, not going to rise, go 1 right. 0 slope, do you remember us talking that it should be flat line? Well, ours is, so we're going to draw a flat line through those points, and then there's my line. Okay, so that ends today's notes, and just be prepared. You'll want to have these notes on hand next Wednesday because you'll be doing a short assignment over this yourself after watching this video and taking notes. Don't forget to submit your notes because that is your assignment today. All right, everybody, have a great day, and I will see you next week.